For the past few years, I've had my Sileighty just wasting away in my garage, just sitting there collecting dust, just depreciating in value, well, and then appreciating in value, and then depreciating in value again. For the past few years, I've had my old Sileighty just wasting away in my garage, and that's been bugging me, so I've decided now is the time to just drag it out and do something about it. Over the next several videos, I am going to resurrect this old forgotten little hot boy car. I'm going to fix it up. This is 56-ish, and this is Shifty Fixes. Yeah, that's almost an anagram. Hang on, I'll make a thing for it. I originally bought this car as just a regular old 1991 model Chuki 180SX with the hopes of doing a Silvia front end swap, because when I was a kid I used to read High Performance Imports magazine a lot, and in those magazines you see a lot of imports and Japanese ones, you know, and the Sileighty was one of my favorites. And back in those days, even though the local import scene was booming, you barely saw any of them. Like, no one ever did it. So I thought, well, it's different, it's cool, it's something else. So that was me as like a 12-year-old. It's been a long time. Yeah, so not long after I bought it in about 2017, with the help of some family and friends, I got the car on the road, painted, did the front end swap, did a lot of preventative maintenance, got it going in preparation to go on a big road trip down to Ipswich near Brisbane for Jamboree. So we're just going to go down there for the show and shine, watch drag races, sort of stuff. Yeah, I'll touch on some more details about that road trip later. I continued to daily drive the car for a few years after that until some unsurmountable issues rendered the car completely undrivable. In this series of videos, I hope to surmount those issues. So here's the car as it stands at the moment, caked in a good 3 years of that real grade A authentic barn dust. Actually, I guess this would only just be garage dust, so it's not authentic. I take that back. It's definitely not authentic. It's got pubes in it. This is directly in front of my clothes dryer, so at least I know they're only mine. It's got all the fruit, including genuine Type X rear lights, wing pods, mint condition Silvia S13 brick headlights, aero bumper, Nismo grille, but then it's also got some fairly heinous wheels. At least they're not orange anymore. And some knockoff side skirts that are just a bit too low and chunky to suit the rest of the kit. So those two issues are definitely going to get addressed, among a lot of other stuff, like the front suspension not being low enough. My real S-chassis homies can smell this video right now. After being shut up for 3 years, that very distinctive scent of an S13 interior has only been intensified. It's making me nostalgic. I wonder if someone could reproduce it and use it to scent car air fresheners or something. This guy would probably buy it, I don't know. I've got a few Type X goodies in here too, although I am short the door trims, glove box, and a dash cluster. I'll try and do something about this too. Don't worry about that dash though, there's nothing a dash mat can't fix. Under the bonnet we've got ourselves an SR20 DET blacktop, also from a later Model 180SX, running a Garrett T28 turbo from an S15 Silvia on a low mount spaghetti manifold, and not much else going on. It doesn't even run, so who cares? Not only that, but the power steering system is so bad that the fluid comes out in the ground faster than you can put it in. So as soon as that started happening, I just had to park it up until I had some time to sort it out. That took 3 years. So the plan is, rebuild the power steering rack and power steering pump as they're both leaking, pull the fuel tank, drain it, and clean it right out, as I'm suspecting dirty fuel could be playing a part in the car not running right. While I'm there, I may as well clean up / replace the rest of the fuel system, such as all the rubber lines, the fuel filter, and try to clean out the injectors or find new ones. After sorting out all the mechanical issues and having a running driving car again, I would like to then also focus on some cosmetic issues, such as side skirts, take that rubber front lip off that I found at the wreckers on a Toyota Avalon, Replace that crusty old black intercooler with a nice new raw silver one, so it doesn't just get lost in the sea of black that is this car. Change the air filter back to a pod filter so we get some nice turbo flutter back out of that T28, and a bunch of other stuff I'll hopefully get to later. Yeah, basically lots of stuff. Lots of stuff. Alright, first things first, take off that rubber lip so the tow truck doesn't do it for me. Next thing second, have the tow truck drag it from where it's been at rest for far too long, and put it over at the workshop. Third thing is tertiary. Wash off those barn pubes, or with the garage pubes. I mean dust. Yeah, and pump up that flat tire. So here on the hoist, the Sileighty will find its new home for the foreseeable future. Or for the next 4 or 5 videos, depending on your perspective in time. It's funny watching this clip back in the edit. I very clearly remember the hoist making a very sudden and concerning sound when it got to the top and I jumped. But it doesn't look like I jumped. Oh well, I guess some days you're the cucumber.
As in cool as A.
And some days you're the cat. Alright, no better place to start than removing the fuel tank. Better let the car down, actually. Upon removing everything from the boot, I found it full of water. The culprit? This water bottle that I've had in the boot since that Jamboree road trip 6 years ago when the radiator popped about an hour down the highway. Look, there it is. Anyway, we'll start by taking the plate off the top of the fuel pump assembly so we can remove it and have a look in there. Don't forget to mark the hoses so they go back on the same way. I was the cat that time. That's a bit excessive. Why is so much friggin' pressure? Come on, that'll do. Considering the car was just sitting there for 3 years, I wasn't expecting any fuel pressure. But then I remembered several moments ago, I had put the jump pack on it to wind the windows up so I could wash it. And that primed the fuel system. Oh well, try and remember that for next time. It's not that bad in here, but I'm going to clean it anyway. I don't really know what the problem was all those years ago, and it's not a bad idea to clean out the fuel tank on such an old car anyway. Another bit of cool fruit this car has is a genuine old logo Nismo exhaust system. I don't think this tank has been out before, so these bolts were a bit of work to get out. Ooh, that's a bit warm. That water sitting in the boot definitely didn't help. Why is that so long? Oh yeah. Don't forget about this bolt up here behind this plastic cover I've never seen before on another S13, because I certainly didn't forget about that bolt up there. Also, don't forget to remove the cap so it doesn't get caught up on the way down. I don't know what all these stickers say, but I'm betting at least one of them is Japanese for "She needs premium, dude! Premium! Dude!" A small amount of debris, not as bad as I anticipated. I wish my piss was such a healthy shade of yellow. Oh yeah, hot tip, throw this big O-ring in the freezer as soon as possible after removal. Actually, that might be a cool tip. It should prevent it from expanding, because like, I don't know, the rubber reacts with the petrol and then they get really long and they won't fit in the hole anymore. I don't know. It happens though. Apparently the baffle inside the tank was hanging on by a thread, so I snapped it off and pulled it out of there before it got loose itself. I probably don't need it. It'll be fine. Don't worry about it. It'll be fine. Now for a good clean inside and out with degreaser and a pressure washer. And a swish of methylated spirits to chase out all the remaining water. Make sure you swish it real good and get all that water out. Maybe some compressed air too to help it evaporate. There's some rusty spots on top, and there's no better time than the present to prevent them from becoming rust holes in the future. That water sitting in the boot caused this bolt hole to rust up a bit as the bolt hole goes all the way through into the boot. Oop, hang on. That's better. It wrecked the bolt a bit too, but because we've had so many S13s apart around here, I actually managed to find another S13 fuel tank strap bolt in the bolt collection. So that's purists 1, everyone else 0. I'm changing the rubber fuel hoses under here too, so I can't forget to transfer that red mark over to the new hoses. As you can see, they're fairly munted from being 30 years old. It's a bit rich coming from me actually. Installation is reverse of removal, including forgetting to do that secret third hose until the last second again. It's the fuel vapor breather hose, by the way. Pro tip for removing a stubborn hose: if you're only going to replace it anyway, just slice it lengthways with a razor blade and peel it off. I got the fuel filter off here, and you can see the consequences of having to replace this filter every month or so towards the end of its drivability 3 years ago. Perforated worm drive hose clamps just tear rubber hoses up, especially if they've been softened by fuel. Every time I changed this filter, it was just completely filled with junk. I had no idea where it was coming from, although I suspect it was the rubber hoses breaking down. That's the reason why I wanted to pull the tank out and clean it. So to solve that hose chewing issue going forward, I've employed the use of these special semi-double layered worm drive hose clamps with extended tang technology. better blow these lines out before putting that filter on. Now it's time to go back to the freezer and grab out that O-ring. Where did it go? Oh. I probably should have put that in there a little bit more carefully. The rubber reacts with the petrol.
They get really long. Won't fit in the hole anymore. It happens though.
Luckily, this problem can still be solved with $22 worth of over-afternoon parts from my local Nissan dealership. Red dot hose to red dot pipe, and hose before bros. I mean, hoses before bolts. It's just easier that way. Oh, and I better not forget to put the filter back in after all that. Time to do the injectors. Fuck. It's way too brittle. It's too old and brittle and shit. Initially, I thought I could just get away with getting them cleaned, but the plastic on top of them is just so brittle that it just crumbles to bits if you try and take them out of the fuel rail. I took the first one out of the rail off camera, but if I'm being honest, it took the better part of an hour to get it out because I was trying not to destroy it, but then I went ahead and destroyed it anyway. So getting replacement parts was the only option. If you've ever taken these weird side feed injectors out of an old 90s Nissan, you'll know that they do not want to let go. Oh. That was an easy one. The inside of this fuel rail looks like the outside of the Titanic. I would have absolutely loved replacing it with a new one, but I couldn't find one quick enough and in budget. So, and this car is going to be running this week no matter what. Yeah, so I just gave it a bit of a clean up. Just going back in. It was actually quite hard to track down a set of aftermarket standard 370cc spec injectors for a reasonable price. And by hard, I mean I didn't find them at all for a reasonable price, and I desperately paid out of the nose for them. It's probably more of a cost/demand issue. Nobody wants them, so they don't really make them. I tried the genuine Nissan route, but they've been discontinued for years now, which means if I had done this job when I initially wanted to, they would have still been available. Oh well. Unlucky for me. Funny story about the injectors, actually. A couple of hours after I bought the injectors on eBay, the guy from the eBay store called me up and asked me, "Are you sure you want 370cc injectors? They're a bit small. Smallest we usually sell are like 550cc. As if to say, what a dork. Why even bother owning an S13 if you don't want to make 500 horsepower minimum? True, but this used to be my daily driver. And when I was planning on doing the car up to start with, my biggest priority was reliability. And I didn't have any money. And I don't really have any money now either, especially after all of this. And I'm not power hungry. I don't need all that. I told him, I said to him, It's just running a standard computer. It's just a standard car. I'm just looking for replacements so I can just get it running again. He was like, oh, okay, that's fine. No, that'll be fine. Nerd. If I wanted larger injectors, it would have been far cheaper, but then I would have had to have upgraded the ECU and the loom, go get it tuned on a dyno, and now we're just way out of the scope of this project now for budget. After popping in each injector with some of the supplied assembly lube on the seals and holding them down with some freshly painted caps and new stainless steel screws with spring washers, we're all set to throw the rail back in. Just cleaning up the big donuts and lubing the rail. The camera died here, but it's important to connect the feed line first before bolting it down. It's just easier that way. While I was waiting for those injectors to arrive, I got a few other things done, such as cleaning the spark plugs as they were quite fouled up. I threw 20 of fresh in that nice clean tank. And I changed the oil and filter. Absolute god pour too. Of course, the battery didn't survive the car just sitting around for so long, so I'm just hooking up the brand new one now. And that's great too, because of the safe and legal thrill that I now get to partake in by disposing of the old one by throwing it in the ocean. The electric eels can thank me later. First start in 3 years. Fuck yeah! best it's ever ran the whole time I've owned it. It's never idled that well. It's idling. Oh, that's wild. What a nice car. Never mind. Oh well. All that fucking time and money and effort for it to run really good for 2 minutes. Alright, well, good stuff. And on that bittersweet note of the car running but not running like it should, we end the video. Thank you very much to all those who watched all the way through. This video and the coming series has been in the works for a very long time. For any of my old GTA Definitive Edition shitposting audience, more of that will be on its way when/if GTA 6 ever comes out. If it's bad, I'm going to tear it to shreds. So yeah, look forward to that. I know I am. Yeah, so if you like what you see, do all the YouTube-y stuff down the bottom there. Yeah, and thanks, and I'll see you in the next one. That's a tip-top video. I like that a lot. To anyone who potentially had their panties all up in a bunch, it's okay. This isn't a real battery and it never was. In fact, it's full of beans!